Hello, everybody, and welcome to ABM Answered, the quickfire demand generation and ABM video series, or at least that's what we aim for. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Matt Conway, who is honestly my kind of guy. He has 12 years experience working with startups and in the SaaS world, and also has some agency experience as well. Is a passionate ABMer and who is currently building out the ABX infrastructure at TXOne Networks is the main man on the ground. But yeah, Matt, did I leave anything off that? Maybe you want to add a bit more about your background?
No, you didn't really. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. I'm a self-confessed ABM geek, so I jumped at the chance to move from agency side to go and work at TXOne and build kind of an ABX framework from scratch, and just TXOne the trajectory that they're on, and in the cybersecurity space too, which is just a really exciting industry to be involved with.
It's a hot space, and it's glad that you're also indoctrinated with ABM. It's definitely an emerging kind of what do we call it? What's marketing strategy, I guess, or campaign, a way to approach it.
It used to be a buzzword, I guess, but it seems like everyone's having a crack at it these days.
Yeah, for sure. So to run you and the viewers through the rules, Matt in this case will be given a set of questions to respond to all about ABM and demand gen. And in this case, as Matt said, we're going to be kind of tackling it from tackling ABX within the cyberspace. The questions have come from or been adapted originally based on the data that we collected at Mixed Reality Rooms, where over 1,000 marketers went through and stated what their biggest headaches are with demand gen and ABM. But in more recent episodes, we've started to include previous guests' questions because, we're big time now. So, Matt, are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm always ready. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool, nice. So problem one was knowing where to start, which is very fitting given your new role, and congratulations on that. So my question to you would be, when implementing an ABX program, and I think I prefer ABX to ABM. But what do the first steps look like? What goals are important to align on, and what I think this is probably the most important part, which people struggle with, is what's a good timeline for a pilot?
Yeah, it's a loaded first question, but let's get stuck into it. Obviously, there's certain things and steps that I would always do when setting up an ABM program, but I think it's never one size fits all, right? Some things that work for some businesses won't work for others, but those first steps are just the most important for setting up a strong foundation. So there's kind of two things that I really like to focus on. I think the first is choosing one objective. So setting expectations from the get-go. And one thing that I like to talk about is crawl, walk, then run. So just basically managing expectations around, starting small, testing and learning as you scale it. Because I've seen so many businesses, try and do too much too soon and fail. You kind of don't know what's working and what's not. So I always say pick one approach, whether that's the type of ABM, one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, or one objective. It's normally driving net new business for the first kind of ABM programs. And, even choosing one region, choosing one vertical, or even as simple as choosing one channel or tactic, and just get started. Don't boil the ocean. Get started, test, learn, and fail, and you can easily just course correct. The second, I think, is just spending that time up front to really clearly know your ideal customer profile, because we talked about it's account-based marketing or it's account-based experience. So your accounts have to be at the forefront of it. So I think, when I've joined, it's spending time up front to really get to know the types of companies, being on calls with customers, being on sales calls, getting to know the verticals and the key personas within, the buying committees of those accounts that you want to target. And I think in terms of aligning on it, I touched on it before, what's that objective? Having everyone kind of agree up front, the direction of travel, I think that's so important. And also on the metrics that you want to report on, what does good look like? I think getting that shared language so that everyone's, singing from the same sheet. So when we say an engaged account, what do we actually mean by that? The last one, I guess in terms of timeline for pilot, I would always suggest at least 9 months. From my own experiences, that's when you kind of really see enough results to be able to show influence and, report on things like ROI. But obviously, working in startups, you want to be agile and move fast. you get a lot of leaders that, they start seeing those green shoots and they want to scale it. They want to scale it as quickly as possible. So I'd say a minimum of 3 months before you can start showing those kind of early signs of success. But I would always opt for at least like 9 months.
Matt, I appreciate you not beating around the bush and saying it depends, because I know it depends. But also, even 9 months is somewhat ambitious, I think, with the ABM, especially if like you said, it's net new business. Some of the sales cycles are like 12 to 18 months. But yeah, no, that's solid answer. We're off to a fly. Problem 2, it's quick fire, and I'm aware we're up against time, so I'll just crack on. Finding innovative ways to break through the noise on a budget. So I know who this came in from. They kind of, a question, I guess, is like, what's worked for you in the past, maybe on agency side, because you're obviously very new in your role. If you've got any kind of, tactics or plays within the cyberspace, great. But yeah, has there been anything kind of out of the ordinary? And like the little caveat, what I say within cyber is it's always kind of very reactive, when the house is melting, that's when they kind of come to you, as opposed to, kind of like future planning. So yeah, how would you approach this?
Yeah, I think that's cutting through the noise it's a challenge for every marketer, right? But I think it's definitely, from my early experiences in cyber, it's a fine line to balance, not kind of preying on those negative consequences or almost scaremongering, but instead kind of trying to focus on, ideal states and value and kind of positive business outcomes. I think that's what I've seen kind of so far, and something we're trying to build at TXOne is, bringing through that value of what we do and how we do things better. So the other thing I've seen in the cyberspace specifically is people are really heavily influenced by their peers. So I think, customer success stories are going to be so valuable, way more valuable than, us talking about ourselves, having a client talk about it. So just last week, we had a customer presenting alongside our team at the Gartner Risk and Security event. And, that kind of exposure is just so invaluable, right? Having your own client actually talk about security. It's not always easy getting customers to talk about the security, because of course it's their own security. So I would say that in terms of cyber. I've got some others from my agency time, I guess, that are a little bit more outside of the box. So actually, one that we saw work really well was direct mail, and it doesn't have to cost the earth. But we saw one that we're working with a customer service vendor, and they always called themselves the secret sauce of customer service. So we just sent out an actual bottle of spicy sauce, like branded with a custom box, and we just did it to their top 10 target accounts. So it didn't cost the earth, and obviously we integrated it with all the other kind of usual ABM tactics, but we saw some really great results with that. That's always one that stuck in my mind.
Dude, that's great, because also the problem with the gifting as well is like, and you see it all the time. It's like trying to tie. There's one thing selling brownies in a post, but if it's not nothing to do with your offer, it's like, well, you're just bribing me at this point. Like that's really cool. And the presenting, no one's ever said that. Obviously, like case studies come up a lot, but like the co-presenting is actually. It's genius. This is awesome. Problem 3 was middle of the funnel jam. So like how to stay top of mind. Everyone I think is experiencing this due to like the macro kind of climate now. It kind of follows on nicely from what you just said. But yeah, how can go-to-market teams kind of accelerate deal velocity, for a buzzword, I guess, and get accounts moving again?
Yeah, this is a tricky stage, that kind of middle of the funnel, when they've had that initial contact and they kind of get stuck. They're maybe aware of your solution, and one thing I think is really important is like just being as personalized as possible. If you have data on them before they've come to you, once you've had that initial contact, you're going to have even more data on them, and you're going to kind of know what their specific challenges are. The tactic that really kind of springs to mind is retargeting for me, but just making sure that the content that you're retargeting with them is as specific and as personalized as possible. If you know what they're after, what their challenges are, make sure that your case study aligns with it. And just keeping that drumbeat of content surrounding them, keeping the frequency of your ads up, and just hopefully being able to reignite that kind of interest and nudge them closer to a decision.
Are you little side question here? Are you a fan of display ads?
I am. Honestly, we've used like Demand Base and Sixth Sense. I've used them before with clients. I'm now actually using demand-based like properly, like as in I onboarded it and set everything up from the start, and like the early results I've been really happy with. Before I've never been like, I was never fully convinced by it, but early signs are good so far.
All right, interesting. That just came in from another guest who were asking. It's weird how it's like dividing some people. I mean, like most of ABM divides people, you know. Right. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I was going to go down a rabbit hole, but we must persevere. So, problem 4, a new problem that I've kind of swapped out for a previous guest question. Christopher Strandel asked, "What would be?" And this is more to do with like sales and marketing alignment, but like, what's like one go-to-market play that you've seen like be the most valuable, not necessarily just in terms of like maybe unlocking deals or like, you know, getting things over the line, which is probably, you know, a great kind of metric to optimize for, but also like most appreciated by sales. So I think what he was trying to get at there is, you know, it's before ABM. If you're going to do true ABM, it's all about alignment, right? But like marketing and sales often operate in their own silos. Is there kind of one play where you'll go to them and they're like, "Whoa, Matt, you're the man. Like, we needed this." Or
Well, that's interesting. That's actually along the lines of the question I think that I was going to ask, which is about sales and marketing alignment. Go-to-market play for sales. Yeah, I think one of the things that we tried, and it is a bit Marmite, like it's been hit and miss, is personalized videos for sales. And when I pitched the idea, it was like part of the outreach. You know, we've seen an account soon engaging. They're kind of a high intent, high engaged account. We want you to outreach to them, but we just wanted to test it out to see if a personalized video would help increase that kind of open rates or engagement rates. Had some sales that just absolutely did not want to do it, and had some guys that were like all in. And funnily enough, I mean, we used a free tool and we actually saw some really, really good results from it. And I think it just having the kind of the clip, like the GIF of the video being super personalized. So we even had them write the name of the person they were reaching out to, and you could have that as the GIF. I think that saw some interesting results, and it's something that I always suggest. You know, you've worked with sales. Sometimes they want to do it, sometimes they don't. But I've seen better results than.
that's interesting. Are you allowed to name the tool, or are you on the NDA, or I don't know?
No, yeah, it was Vidyard that we used, and of course they've got the paid plans and stuff that I've been exploring recently. But even just the free tool, you know, you can use it and you can clip and edit it, and yeah, hopefully that's kind of along the lines of.
I mean, no, that's awesome. That answered the question. Great. Problem 5 that came in, another buzzword, full of buzzwords this morning. Implementation of AI. So how are you using AI in your workflows?
Okay, so I'll be honest here, like I'm not an everyday kind of AI user, but I think it absolutely has its place. And I think especially for ABM, it's more around those like bigger research pieces, how like machine learning can ingest and digest and make sense of huge amounts of data that we're just not able to. So for me, I kind of use AI in that sense, you know, for identifying and prioritizing, you know, finding target accounts and doing research on them. So hopefully I'm allowed to mention that we use Demand-based, but they have a really interesting feature that we're kind of exploring at the moment, which I'm really excited about. And it's basically AI for predictive scoring. So it's like a machine learning model where you can train it to look at your accounts in your CRM that are customers, or even ones that are open opportunities, and it looks for similar accounts that are showing the same kind of types of engagement and intent, like that. So they were 3 or 6 months ago the same, and so it's just helpful for uncovering more accounts that are a good fit and could be, you know, right for our sales to reach out to.
Yeah, that's a trend that kind of from the responses I'm getting to that question, almost everyone uses it for the research stage as opposed to kind of, and a few people do, but like that outreach stage of, you know, pinging, everything runs on autopilot. And I think especially within ABM, you need that human element. Otherwise it's not really personalized.
Yeah.
That said, and last week I was playing with it, an AI song generator, and it was absolutely nuts. I can't remember what it was called, like Sono or something. And I was like, are people going to start creating like AI personalized jingles of like account songs? I don't know. That's just, I just thought it was kind of a cool way to do it as opposed to, you know, well, what you suggested was even more manual, right? Like you write it on the name and they can see that that's personal, as opposed to I get pictures sent to me on like in my LinkedIn DMs of Sam on a Rubik's Cube, and I'm like, this is clearly like AI generated, not personal at all. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Are you okay for time, like 5 minutes overrun?
Yeah, that's cool. I can do 5 or 10.
Cool. We're nearly at the end anyway. So problem 6 that came in was another big one. All the heavy hitters today: tracking and reporting ROI. And I think another one, like this came in from Autodesk, but like tracking and reporting ROI of also like cool MarTech solutions, like those when you're experimenting with new plays and things, it can be a bit more difficult. But like just in general, how can, we improve KPI effectiveness?
Yeah, this is another like key one, and one that I think everyone finds a challenge. I kind of touched on it before. I think aligning on those metrics up front and everyone kind of agreeing, having that shared language of what does good look like and what are we going to track. The thing that I'm kind of thinking, like when I get started, it's moving people away from that like lead based metrics and focusing more on account based metrics. And I think that's always the first obstacle, shifting perceptions away from interested individuals or leads and more around the interested accounts. But the other way we like to look at it, and I like to look at it, is we use the 3Rs framework. So reputation, relationships, and revenue. And because I think that really covers all the KPIs across the entire level of measurements. I think those kind of focusing on those KPIs that reflect, engagement and progress at the account level is the most important.
Sure. And I guess this isn't just specifically to kind of like your new role or new company, but like, especially if you're like one of the first in implementing this ABM or ABX strategy, have you found it like a challenge? And I guess working on agency side, you've done this many times with many clients, of like trying to convince leadership to move from lead gen to account scoring, or has it been are people starting to wake up and realize that no, this is the way forward?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. I mean, it is. I was really lucky that like the leadership here were like, we need ABM, but knowing that you need it and then having someone come in and just try to completely change your perception is always a challenge, right? Because I'm trying to talk about getting away from thinking about leads, whereas previously it's like we need X amount of sales qualified leads to get us X amount of sales. Like shifting that thinking is always the challenge, but yeah, one that I've had to tackle many times before.
Well, yeah. You've got much more exposure to me than on that side of things. I'm working with so many different clients. The last question that came in was from Drew Smith. He is the CEO of Attributor, an agency that basically specializes in attribution. But his question wasn't to do with attribution. His question was, how would you or do you run ABM without being forced to buy one of the expensive platforms like we mentioned it, Demandbase, and we mentioned 6 Sense? And that's not slating any of them at all, but they are just naturally these all-encompassing platforms which do cost more money than these lightweight tools. So yeah, how would you approach that?
Yeah, so funnily enough, I actually have. I think one of the first ABM programs that I did and had like actual really great success with, and one of the ones I'm probably most proud of. We didn't use like one of those platforms that we mentioned before, and I have used them, and I do say I'm a big fan, but they just complement the ABM activity, because I think you can have all the tech in the world, but if you don't have those like fundamental things in place that we talked about, aligning with sales and having open, honest, feedback and communication, then having all the tech in the world is not going to help. So I think, just really laser focusing on what you want to do, aligning the go-to-market teams, and you don't need a tool to put your content out there. You can test and learn what works. You can use your CRM, you can use your channels, and I think getting that honest feedback from what is working and what isn't. And I think that's kind of when ABM works best. Those tools might help automate some things, and you can still do it without them. So I think, yeah.
Do you think that's the main value in those tools then, kind of that automation flow piece, as opposed to like, so it's in a way saving you time as opposed to like actually generating you engagement? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's saving time, and also there's just the huge amounts of data that you can get. But I think we can also get overloaded with data. So it's about making
Sure.
sense of that data. So I think there's definitely a place for them, and of course, if it's in your budget, as I said, I'm a huge fan, but you can definitely do it without. And then, like you said, you don't want to take away that kind of human element of ABM, because it's all about being, personalized, and you don't want to take that away.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to round things off. Matt, the final thing, congratulations, you've made it, you've survived. The final thing that I'll ask you is, do you have a question? And I'm sorry to have taken it away slightly, but we ask so many people. Do you have a question for our next guest?
Yeah, well, I was gonna kind of took away. I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna say, how do you get those healthy, honest conversations going between the go-to-market teams, especially sales and marketing?
Okay, yeah, no, I feel like that. Well, you've tweaked it great. No, I feel that's a good.
Is that all right?
Yeah. It's an isolated question. Nice. Well, Matt, thanks very much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.